Welcome to Happy Times and Places, a Doctor Who episode commentary podcast with the humble aim of accentuating the positive. I, Toby Haydock, have asked my special guests to nominate an episode and secretly choose their 5 favourite things about it. I have to commentate along and then guess what those favourite things might be. Well, there's not one guest this time around, there's a whole bunch of them. They have chosen for us to watch The Return of Dr. Mysterio. But they're from across the pond from me. They're from Lamplighter School in Dallas in the United States. Are they going to introduce themselves?
I'll start first. I'm Mr. Peck. I'm the drama teacher here at the Lamplighter School. And I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was 5 years old. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I just love the fact that every episode is different.
My name is Gus, and I'm 8, and I've been into Doctor Who since I was 4, I think. Hello, my name is Wilder, and I'm 9 years old. And what I like about Doctor Who is that there's so many doctors.
Hello, my name is Becca, and I'm 9 years old. What I like about Doctor Who is that there's always new generations.
Hello, my name is Aiden, and I'm 9 years old. And my favorite part about the Doctors is that the Flux was very about a lot about time, and that's what I like.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and my favorite thing about Doctor Who is the TARDIS.
Hi, my name is Tony. I'm 9 years old, and what I like about Doctor Who is Mr. Huff.
Hello, my name is Jack. I'm 9 years old, and what I like about Doctor Who is when he always says, "I'll explain later," and he never does.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm 10 years old, and something that I like about Doctor Who is in each episode, there's always something new that you don't expect.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm basically 10 years old, and I really like how there's a million different themes in every episode.
Hi, my name is Addison. I'm 8 years old, and what I like about Doctor Who is he or she is always hiding something in each episode.
Hi, my name is Eliza. I am 9 years old, and my favorite thing about Doctor Who is how all the different doctors redo the inside of the TARDIS, so there's always something new and fresh.
Hello, my name is Michaela, and I am 9 years old, and what I like about Doctor Who is in every single episode, there's always a story that actually connects to your life that you can actually base off of in different situations.
Hi, my name is Elisa, and I am 9 years old, and my favorite thing about Doctor Who is that it's not real and it's very attracting.
So, as you've gathered, this is an after-school club. So I thought I'd ask these wonderful kids why it is they decide to stay behind after lessons to talk about Doctor Who, and how the club came about and what attracted them to it.
I got interested in Doctor Who because I really liked all the collections and stuff, and when I started watching it, I got more and more interested and started really liking all of the fictional stuff, and that's how I got interested in Doctor Who.
At first, I had no idea what Doctor Who was, so I decided to join this after-school program.
Ah, yes, so it's an after-school program. But yes, no, somebody else wanted to come in. Please do.
Well, at first my mom signed me up, and I was like, "What is this?" And then later, I got some kind of books of the 13th Doctor, and I actually got really interested in it. And then when I started watching it, I really got interested in it. In first grade, my friends told me about it, and it sounded pretty nice to me. So then I watched it, but it was scary. And then when I started doing it in 2nd grade, it felt less scary, so I decided to continue it.
If I remember correctly, my mom said that one of my friends was doing Doctor Who, so I asked her what day it was to see if we had any time. So my mom signed me up, and I ended up really enjoying it.
So I got interested in 1st grade. I was just it was a Sunday. Well, my friends were doing it, and and I watched it at home, and I completely loved it. And so I asked if I could sign up. In second grade, they signed me up, and then they took me off. And now in third grade, I'm in it.
I got interested in Doctor Who when one of my friends told me that it was really cool. So then I think I watched one of them at home, and then I was like, ooh, this is cool. So then I just joined the after school.
Well, thank you, because for somebody that's been a fan of Doctor Who all my life, I don't think anyone's ever used the word cool in a sentence to describe anything I do, and you've just used it twice, so I'm very grateful. I feel like finally I can say I'm doing something cool. Well, welcome everybody. You've probably just, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but you've probably just heard the introduction explaining who the guests are for this special episode of Happy Times and Places. Hello, I hope your times are as happy as your places at the moment. But I don't know what form that has taken because I haven't done it yet. Very timey-wimey and Stephen Moffat-y. Although this episode is not especially timey-wimey. It is very Stephen Moffat-y, though. So we're going to watch the return of Dr. Mysterio. And then I will... that I've been set by my guests, as you probably will have heard and had explained to you. And then we will return there at the end of this to find out what their favourite 5 things are. And I will see if mine match. So I have to choose 5 favourite things about this episode, the return of Dr. Mysterioso. And my guests will have chosen their favourite things, and explain them. But that's all going to happen as I record this tomorrow. Across time zones and, of course, geographical ones. Anyway, let us then begin the episode. I have it on iPlayer. It's paused and ready to go, and I'm going to watch it. I'm going to press the whatever button it is, the select button in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I have a confession to make. It's doing that circly thing. That the iPlayer, I remember thinking this iPlayer thing won't catch on. It does that circly thing, which did all the time for viewers in America. It's just buffering basically. So that's a pause that's happened. I will say Alexa, volume 6. I love all of this Americana stuff. I like it when Doctor Who goes to America because it so infrequently did in the classic series. And when it did, I mean, the gunfighters was obviously oft and much derided. But, I mean, it was odd because for many, many years, a lot of British programmes didn't do America. Or if they didn't do them very well. And it was a real... I remember seeing Gary Oldman playing an American in something. And going, oh gosh, a British actor being a convincing American. That is a rare thing. And suddenly when British actors cracked how to do Americans, because it's not just the accent. I think there's all sorts of other elements. I've just watched a program now with 4 ostensibly American leads, and 2 are Australian and 2 are British. So I mean, America's been very, very kind to British actors, and loads of British actors have had, recently great careers in the UK, and also net programs in the UK now, because of the way that things are done, which are very different from the classic series, get American actors to come over here. So we had Ryan Carnes, didn't we, in Daleks Take Manhattan. This young lad's good. I looked him up. He's not done anything else, and he's great. But he's Logan Hoffman, and there's a Logan Hoffman who's the lad who was in the remake of V. So that doesn't make Googling easy. So yeah, I always feel that because the kid in me, brought up in the middle of nowhere, but I think just to us in the UK, America, hello American listeners, is very glam. It's the land of plenty. It's the land of skyscrapers. It's the land of Hollywood. And all the impressive amazing sort of films and things, apart from James Bond, came over from the States. Star Trek, made at the same time as Doctor Who, was obviously something that had far more money at its disposal. It was in colour, it had laser beams, it was filmic. So any of the, and Christmas as well, because I still see sort of Doctor Who Christmas specials as a bit of a novelty, because I was so amazed when there was that trailer saying coming next, the Christmas invasion. You got Doctor Who's on Christmas Day, and stayed there ever since, till somebody decided that having a prime time slot and that helps to cement you as a national habitat institution would be a good thing to get rid of. I think the jury's out on that one. No, I think the jury returned pretty quickly on that one in Haydock Towers. Anyway, and I love. There's something that Moffat does very well with the Doctor, or the Moffat era certainly, is that the Doctor's got to because the Doctor's so clever and brilliant at all sorts of things. The Doctor can make really fundamental mistakes. I like that. I think I've recently done Kill the Moon, haven't I? When he did the how old are you? 35 to a kid, and I think that joke is repeated here. But of getting basic things wrong because he's a genius. And why would you know things like how old kids are or not quite understand how comic books work, or think you do, but actually what you think you've been clever about is something that's glaringly obvious. So it can allow the Doctor to do daft things without at all diminishing the Doctor's brilliance. The mistakes are born from the very genius that the Doctor has. And that's sort of almost what happens here, because this is a great sort of gag, and it's a brilliant misdirection, because all the ingredients for the joke, the punchline that actually then breeds the entire story, are in this section. Here's the crystal. We've already seen him cough. Here's the crystal. Here's a glass of water. And Dr. Mysterio. So now, obviously, when this was being, trailed, and by this point I wasn't gorging on the previews or anything like I had. I decided to try and sort of remain spoiler free, really. So I came to this, fairly blind. I thought Dr. Mysterioso was going to be the superhero, So I was quite surprised with the superhero is the ghost. Oh no, Doctor Who is Dr. Mysterioso, and that is because that's what it's called in Mexico, I think. Didn't they say? And that Peter Capaldi had been quite beguiled by this when he and Stephen Moffat were on some sort of worldwide tour, and Moffat liked the way that the announcer said Dr. Mysterioso, and that's why he delivers it in the way that he does in this. And that worked its way into the script. And this was, of course, the only episode we got in 2016. The last time we'd seen Doctor Who was on Christmas Day 2015. So this was the only episode we got in 2016. Gosh. And 2016 was 6 years ago. My goodness. So this is 5 and a bit years old. That seems incredible. So anybody that was 5 when this was on is now 10. Anybody that was 10 is now 15. 15 is 20. I mean, God, those are big, big changes when you're a kid. Well, I've gone from 43 to 48. There's probably still washing I was supposed to be doing when this was on that I still haven't quite got round to. Household chores. He's and it's the first. I did have a look at the TARDIS wiki because this is brilliant. It's such a good gag. We haven't had the opening titles yet, have we? Yes, I have to confess, I watched this the other night. That's very superhero, isn't it? The 36. See, that's the repeated gag from from Kill the Moon that I chose as one of my favourite things, and I feel quite bad now because that's that brilliant bit with the Doctor hopping about at the beginning. Anyway, doesn't matter. Don't talk over this one with regrets for ones you did from another one. That's very funny. That's great. That's such a good... because this is Christmas, of course. It's got to be quite daft and quite fun. And we still haven't had the opening titles, but I watched this the other night because I'd realised I hadn't actually watched this since it was broadcast. Life had got a bit crazy. We've moved house and work and bits and bobs. Yeah. Anyway, for whatever reason, I don't have to have an excuse for not having watched a program millions of times. But it would have been my way in the past. But I'd watched this on Christmas Day, and I just never quite got around to watching it again. And not because I hadn't enjoyed it. So there was a lot of pleasant stuff to discover in this. And when I watched it the other night, I had an absolute blast watching it. I thought it was really sweet. Really good fun, and I love that sort of clash of Americana and American comic strip. I was never much of a comic strip guy, but I admired it, and I always read them if I got my hands on them. But I was never a collector or DC maniac or any of those things, or a Marvel guy. But I certainly respect them, and I'm sure if the opportunity to get into them had presented itself to me out in the middle of nowhere in the 1980s, I would have done, but it didn't. There's a very funny thing on the TARDIS wiki, I think, where I was just scanning that to get a few little bits and bobs, and the wiki page almost has an argument with itself, because there's obviously somebody who's got a bee in their bonnet about what constitutes a companion or a male companion. This is why history can't be written by democracy. I'm sorry, it can't be, because everyone just fights with each other. And somebody's gone, and this is the only story where the Doctor is accompanied solely by a male companion. And then somebody has sort of added, well, except that in the Keeper of Traken, Nyssa is not officially a companion, so that's the Doctor and Adric. So it starts making one thing, but instead of that being edited out, it's been the sentence sort of contradicts itself by the time it gets to the end, because obviously somebody else has added that. And it just goes to show that, if research, never trust an internet source, and if you do, double check it. And then also, at the end of the day, it depends what you class as a male companion anyway, and also, who cares? Well, this person does. It's this person's thing, and we all have a thing. Like the guy, I'm sure I mentioned him before, who goes around IMDb going, actress J is the 37th actress to be seen giving birth in Call the Midwife. And you go, why are you charting all the actresses who have to act giving birth in Call the Midwife? I think that's a bit strange, but if that's your thing... I love his duffel coat. I love duffel coat peg buttons. It's really nice that Matt Lucas is back. It was very exciting that Matt Lucas was in the previous Christmas special, but there was no idea then that he'd be a companion. Much loved comedy actor here. George Dawes in Shooting Stars was a highlight of my student days. And then... now, I was talking before about, we can get American actors over here, and Justin Chatwin is an American actor, and this actor, Alexander Yankovic, is German, and, international casting now allows for a bit more, not plausibility, but... genuine representation. Now, part of me as an actor goes, but it might be, I think it's quite fun if I as an actor get to play a German character. But then with the Doctor Who thing, I always think it feels great if Doctor Who, our funny British little show, has, can get actors from all over to sort of come and lend verisimilitude and to introduce us to actors that we might not ordinarily see in the productions that we're watching, or we might see in productions that we're watching, but productions of an international hue. So I think all of that's, I just love watching good actors, and these actors are all good. And I didn't know Alexander Yankovic, and I think he's very good in this. And I love the dabbing of the scar and the sort of oily residue that's leaking out. It's another brilliant sort of Stephen Moffat thing of going, I'm going to have a thing that my bad guys do. And this one is that they open their heads up and they've got this scar down them showing where the opening is. And it's, I don't know how conscious it is, but he has a mind to make memorable as a kid you'd go, that was the one where they opened their faces up, opened their heads up, and there was a gun inside or whatever. And he's very good at that. He's very good at creating the ones that do that thing, the monsters that are statues, the crack in the wall, the shoes under the bed, all of that kind of, the kid in the gas mask, all of that imagery. And this is brains in jars. I mean, Doctor Who has an illustrious history of brains in jars, from the brains of Morpherton in the Keys of Marinus, which I adore, to the brain of Morbius, to these ones with the Doctor eating sushi. And Charity Wakefield has been plucky because she's disguised herself as the cleaner, which is a Doctor Who-ish thing to do, actually. Doctor Who does it in The Green Death, doesn't he? He disguises himself as the cleaner with hilarious consequences. I love the dabbing of the blue goo. This is a nice set as well. And you just notice that, not all the jars have brains in them. Hang on. Now, you're not supposed to do that to goldfish, so I suspect it's not very nice with brains. Oh, that's brilliant. Brains with eyes. That's such a great Doctor Who-y thing. It's, it sort of dares you to go, but there's no way brains could have eyes. Well, yeah, they can. That's really good. And this is the sort of perfect... we're introduced to a character who looks like he's going to be important, but actually the main reason he is here is to perish in an early scene in order to illustrate what the menace is. And this is a Christmas special, and it's done that sort of difficult job. We had a little bit of snow, didn't we, in the pre-title sequence, and. It just goes to show you don't need Santa Claus monster. I mean, I think it's absolutely right that the early Christmas specials really Christmased it up. That's really horrible, that wonky shaped face. I'm definitely going to choose the weeping oil scar thing as a thing. It's a great monstery thing. It's a very... it's funny, when Peter Harness was here the other day, and he gave the reason that Stephen Moffat liked the lights turning off in Kill the Moon was that it was a really effective image, but also really cheap. Well, that dripping oil from the scar is I'm sure very, very cheap, but it's really grotesque. It's really horrible. That's a brilliant shot from the ceiling. Well done, director Ed Bazalgette, who actually I auditioned for a role in Doctor Who, which I didn't get, but no hard feelings. He's from the famous Bazalgette family. Peter Bazalgette was, I think he is anyway. He must be. Peter Bazalgette was one of the execs on Big Brother, but Olivia Bazalgette was a production manager or assistant floor manager or something on Sharda, and met Daniel Hill on that, and they are married to this day. I'm assuming they're all related. I don't know. This isn't a fact one. Look it up there. I've given you 3 surnames of people who all work in television who might well be related. You can do the rest. And then you can argue about what constitutes being related on various Wikipedia pages. Something I meant to mention in that pre-titles when the Doctor was sort of scampering about the top of the building is that he's got that sort of Peter Cushing walk. I love that sort of bow-legged old professor walk that he does. Something I didn't think I wanted or needed was that somebody who had a similar sort of doddering gait to Peter Cushing. The two Peter C's have the same sort of bow-legged totter, and which makes up for not coming from Totter's Lane in the case of Peter Cushing. And this is a brilliantly, again, Stephen Moffat is so good at these things, going, what's a thing that the Doctor can do that is really doctorish and a bit obtuse and a bit cheeky, but kind of makes sense? And it buys the Doctor a little time. It's daring. It's silly, but it makes perfect sense. It communicates well to children. Love it. I like the Doctor turning his back. And here we have the superhero. Doctor Who meets a superhero, which and all you can do under these circumstances is to enjoy it. The danger of doing things like this is go, well, there's no such things as superheroes in Doctor Who, so we'll, we don't want that sort of thing in the Doctor Who universe. Or you go, there are loads of great things about superhero stories, and we don't normally do them in Doctor Who, but if we're going to do one, we're going to do it properly. And Justin Chatwin is great, and again, the advantage of getting, doing some international casting, get an American actor. He looks the part. I love the fact that his disguise is to wear glasses. But that was something I was reminded. Somebody put a GIF on the other day, showing Christopher Reeve taking his glasses off in slow motion and showing Clark Kent to Superman, and in slow motion it just showed how he just adjusts his body language, and those things that we used to. We're so lucky at kids. Things like the Superman films, they're exciting when they were first on telly. But, I grew up when they were new, and so I saw Superman 2 when it was first on telly. And that was a real occasion because you couldn't just get hold of it. You had to wait till it was on. And all of those things that you sort of took for granted, because although they were exciting, they were there. And it's only when you look back and go, God, Christopher Reeve was good. God, those Superman films were great. I'm the main one. I love all of that. And yes, see, all of this is perfect stuff. The only thing I thought was slightly, it's a nice twist when we actually realise that but that's beautiful. Look at that. There, it's that. And Nardole is great for doing that kind of undercutting everything by saying something, making a sort of a very simplistically, down to earth eulogy, if you can have such a thing. He's a lovely character. Matt Lucas is great, and of course he'd been in a Big Finish. I remember him being in the Big Finish. Is he in the One Doctor? It's got an amazing cast. I think it was at the time when Big Finish were doing. Simon Pegg pops up, doesn't he, in one, and Adam Buxton and Biggins and Matt Lucas, and you're going there. They're aiming for the right sort of people to give Doctor Who. Now it's existing only as an audio product. Kudos from the sort of people that Doctor Who would be casting if it was on telly now. And one of those is an up and coming comedian, but more than up and coming. He was he's a genuine TV star, but he's kept his career going because he's so lovable and so he's so good. And George Dawes is just wonderful. For those who never saw Shooting Stars, I don't know how big it was in the States. He was basically just the scorekeeper, but he was a baby who played the drums, and with his very deep voice or whatever voice he wanted to do. Brilliant. And then came Little Britain with Tom Baker narrating and characters called Michael Craze and Matthew Waterhouse. And you went, I think these guys might be secret Doctor Who fans. Not so secret now. And then, of course, it was only right that he would end up. Wasn't surprised when he ended up in the Christmas special the year before this. And then back as a companion, which I think is lovely. And I gigged with him once years ago. It was, oh God, very early gig for me. I hadn't been going for long at all. and Matt was doing a character called Sir Bernard Chumbley, and it was a gig at Jabez Clegg, which is now Flats in Manchester, and he was lovely. And he was George Dawes. He was well known at that time, and he said, "I've just become the Cadbury's cream egg boy." I think so. He'd got an advert campaign, but was very, very low key, very sweet, and he's done some Q&As for Shez, my partner's charity, for getting disabled people access to the arts, and has been very, very helpful. And he was great over lockdown with his baked potato song. I just think he's a joy. And Nardole is brilliant at that sort of idiot savant kind of thing. And then he gets that brilliant ending that he gets, which I found really, really moving. But we'll get to that when we do his Somebody's Just Chosen, Dr. Falls, actually. And yeah, this was the only thing I thought was a little stretch, because he calls her Mrs. So-and-so, and yet they've known each other since school. And you could sort of go, well, it's because he's he's delineating that he's doing his job as nanny now and blah blah blah. But it's worth it for the misdirect, because it's quite a fun twist that the woman he saved and Plonk is actually also the woman that he's babysitting for, and we realise what the story is going to be. It's going to be an unrequited love story. And again, you don't need to get too complicated with that. I've been looking at Doctor Who scripts recently and how the best ones work. And I think the temptation when you're coming up with a Doctor Who story is to make it really, really complicated. But actually, the most satisfying ones, Doctor Who's complicated enough. It's about a person who travels through space and time in a police box that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and it has to be scary and funny, have peril on Earth, introduce you to loads of new guest characters, all in the space of 45 to 60 minutes. That's really hard. And this does, if you break this down to what it does, this does so much. So to actually overcomplicate the love story, overcomplicate the superhero stuff, you'd be on a hiding to nothing, because you get enough from both of those things. You get the right beats from both of those stories. And I'll tell you what I've always liked Peter Capaldi's Doctor, and I liked him at the time. It's a bit like Christopher Reeve's Superman. Looking at him now, as I've done, because I've done Kill the Moon recently and watched this a couple of days ago. Oh God, he's so good. He's so right. I love the way he talks to children. I love the way he scampers about. I love the way he's obtuse with the aliens. I love his deadpan comedy. And I don't know. I suppose I need to, because I think the general feeling out there isn't there, that his era was not as successful as the Matt Smith era in terms of, public affection and fan affection as well. Now it could well be that that's not your opinion. Don't tweet me. That's fine. When I say general opinion, I'm getting what I glean from the internet, and maybe from what seemed to be the perception at the time, and I don't quite know why that is, because even the way he sticks his head through the bars is absolutely brilliant. I think there's a feeling abroad is that he's great, and his stories well, I know a lot of people felt that making him unpleasant early on was a mistake, and I'm not unsympathetic to that view. But I think I need to do some early Peter Capaldi's in order to examine that. I think I might have just got one. I think somebody's just done Deep Breath. Have they? I've certainly had an upsurge in new series, because I've been talking to some young people, and Granddaddy Haydock is getting down with the kids. So, but I also don't know how much I have that's of use to bring to proceedings, because, hopefully I can pepper Classic Who with, factoids and, personal experience that will provide, identification for people that were my age, or a little bit of history for people that were not. Well, we've all watched this, haven't we? There's nobody for whom this is this is an ancient episode. Well, apart from maybe my guests. I love Mr. Huffle. It's a great Stephen Moffat way. It's a brilliant way of getting the exposition out there, or establishing the character dynamics. I don't think anybody's a fan of scenes where the action stops and people sit down and explain the plot to each other. But sometimes you need an info dump, and it's great to have one, while aliens are trying to smash through a door and you're trying to hold the door shut and, explain, or that's a great way of getting the information out there and not stopping the action. But here we need a bit of time, and we need these two to have a chat. We need that bit of exposition out there, and again, don't make it too complicated. Have a funny thing. Harmony Shoal sounds, it's a bit like Colony Sarf, isn't it? It's got a similar linguistic structure, similar number of syllables. Colony Sarf, Harmony Shoal. And Charity Wakefield is great, and I think gives you would have half expected maybe an American to get an American to do this, but actually, so I think it's great that you can do both. You've got the American actor Justin Chatwin as the ghost, whereas you could just have easily have had a British actor doing his best American, and had a genuine American actress playing this part. But it's and either way would work. Let's get a smoke detector. He's brilliant. It must be such fun to do that sort of superhero stuff. But Charity Wakefield is a UK actress, and in fact, she's on my show reel because we were both in a series called Casualty 1907. I think it's called London Hospital Abroad, and I played a character called Dr. Leonard Hill, who stopped people who's a real historical figure, stopped people getting bends as they ascended up from the tunnels digging under the Thames, and she was a lovely nurse, and came in to learn from me about what has happened to their patients who've got bubbles from the oxygen coming up too fast. Probably my favourite part I've played on television. And if I'd known she would one day be one of the main guest stars of a Doctor Who Christmas special, I would have got her phone number. But instead, I spent a day and waved off at the station, and have never seen her since. I think we shared a cab. Did we share a cab? Yeah, because I was with everybody at the station when we all jumped into our trains. He's great, Justin Chatwin, because he's got the perfect look of he does look a bit nerdy with the glasses, but he's also, in decent shape and very handsome, which is everything you want from somebody doing a superhero. And I love the way he puts on the voice. And this is great Stephen Moffat comedy, of them having the conversation in separate rooms, and all this capery stuff. And look at that, the little comic strip panels. Oh, and that's clever how the Doctor's arm sometimes goes over the line and sometimes goes under the line. That's very clever. Yeah, I really like the comic strip stuff there. That's good. Oh yeah, I like the fun that they're having. They're having fun with that. Again, I always feel that if Doctor Who can play with other genres, it's weird because Doctor Who is great of its own accord and wonderful and can stand on its own 2 feet, but I always like it when things that other people like are given the Doctor Who treatment. I And again, particularly, as I say, the that's brilliant. Gosh, so that baby's going to be like 7. Yeah, crikey. I'll have to interview. I'll have to interview the baby. It's quite a small scale, isn't it? Yes. I wonder if that's the only thing it misses. I like the bit on the telly when he pointed into the camera and said, "Fit a smoke detector," and you'd get. But it was a little bit CG, wasn't it? And you know, a couple of scenes with a reporter outside a burning building. But there's not really, or is there? Let's look out to see if is it a bird? Is it a plane moment? But there's not that. It's not huge in terms of cast or scope, is it? Which it doesn't. There's no reason that it should be. But I offer that as an observation, as a surprising thing. It's quite. I'm surprised how domestic this is. You're jealous of you. Technically, she's jealous of her. That's very, very funny. There's so many good jokes. He's a seasoned comedy writer, Moffat, and Doctor Who has to be funny. I sometimes see on Twitter Doctor Who being taken very seriously, and I take Doctor Who very seriously, and I've been guilty of taking Doctor Who far too seriously. But I sometimes think that it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that actually Doctor Who is zestful and fun at its best, and should never take, what is it the third Doctor says, are you serious about what I do? Yes, not necessarily in how I do it or whatever. Doctor Who must always have but not in that, it should never, I think it gets in trouble if it gets self-parodic. I think that, because that can appear a little self-satisfied too. But that's like, I don't think you should always be winking at the audience, and I don't buy that either. That Doctor Who always knew it was a bit crap. No, I think Doctor Who is at its best when it works really hard to overcome, its shortcomings of budget and production schedule, and the fact that it's made in the present but set in the future often, or it has to show things that we can't do yet because it's about a character that can do things that we can't do. But it's still got to do that with 100% commitment. But also be fun about it as well. But that's brilliant. That's again another piece of Stephen Moffat cleverness, where they're looking at the Doctor on the security footage. Oh no, he's there now, and I love this because what the Doctor's doing there is he's sort of saying, I'm drawing lines, step back from it with awesome speed. Now, he could have done that with, I'm the Doctor, run sort of energy, but he still delivered it like he was sort of hastily improvising and hope that he's got enough innate authority to get away with that. But he's still scared because he doesn't want to, you don't want to undermine the villains. It's really, really well judged. The cross dogs. What's that? A sandwich? Oh, it's a. Yes, this is great doctor-y stuff. We're very good at these hero moments these days for the Doctor. That's who I. What's it? And it's a very nice piece of music there as well. They just about got away with that because there's always that thing of going, the Doctor sometimes has to do a lot of talking while the villains stand around doing nothing. But they just about got away with that because he's so good. They needed to find out what he was saying, and he sort of did the distraction with the burger, which is funny. And What's Nardole been doing? Nick some stationery. Now, this was interesting because I remember I kept waiting on Christmas Day for there to be an explanation as to why Nardole, who last we saw had his head chopped off, was back. And I remember when we first saw him in the episode going, oh well, they'll explain it. And I remember this TARDIS scene and going, oh, is this where they go? And I remember, and it was Christmas Day, so I think I'd had a couple of glasses of wine. Sort of coming to the end of the episode and going, they didn't really explain it, but they do there, don't they? It's that's why I reassembled you, blah, blah, blah. So it's done in a couple of lines. And you know what? I think that's absolutely the right thing, because actually, who cares? The way that the Husbands of Riga song was, Nardole is dead. He was a one-off character, and they dispensed with him. Then they decided that they really like Matt Lucas because he's great, and that he would be a good companion for the Doctor. And that was such a good decision. Love that. You got to have the opening of the shirt moment, and it's just the right shirt as well, the Czech lumberjacky type shirt. And it's great superhero-y music too. But then with the baby monitor in hand, I love that. Again, it's that juxtaposition. I don't know why I'd sort of been programmed to go, well, they must have to come up with a really good explanation as to why. No explanation's ever really going to be good enough, because we know in our heart of hearts it's a bit of a U-turn based on the fact that they like the actor. So we could have had 5 minutes, we could have had 10 minutes, it could have been a really important part of the plot of the whole of the episode to explain why not. But instead, I've got better things to do. Couple of lines, I reassembled you, boof. And that's just fine, because all the joy that we get from Matt Lucas over the next year, and I think Peter Capaldi's final year is my favourite of his. I love Bill Potts and Nardole, and I just think I absolutely understand the drive to make the Doctor alien and difficult that they had in that first season. But as I said, anecdotally, it didn't work for everybody that I know. And it's interesting because this actor here, I looked him up. He's got one line, and he's done loads. And then the actor playing the young ghost hasn't done anything since, and it just goes to show, what an uppy and downy thing it is. But also that there are people who come in and have one line who've done so much sort of theatre and conceived their own things and done this and done that. But if you get offered a line in Doctor Who, you go do it. It's a buyer's market, the acting world. I love it when I read interviews with actors and saying, what attracted you to the part? And people scramble around and go, well, I thought it was a marvellous opportunity to there's so few actors that don't just go, because I wanted to work. But you never say that. You always go, I thought it was really interesting to wear a hat, or I thought I could grow a beard. That would be marvellous. And I've always wanted to work with X, Y, and Z. I just always wanted to work. Now, I know there are actors, perhaps on a different rungs of the ladder than I, that do have a choice, but I don't think as many as answer questions like that in interviews. That's another great Moffat. Guys dressed in white with surgical masks on are scary. In fact, I'm surprised they didn't become more sort of you could have used them quite widely as peripheral monsters in a story like this. Moffat proved that all you need is a kid with a gas mask, so somebody with in a clean white surgical gear can be a scary thing if you do it right. This is lovely, and that's the great thing I think about episodes like this, is you've got this almost screwball comedy of identity, and as I say, it doesn't do anything particularly complicated with this, apart from the inherent complications of this sort of story, where there's a bit in this scene, isn't it, where you think he's almost going to reveal that he's that he's Grant, and then he doesn't because she says something that makes him then not do that which he was going to do, and they miscommunicate, and it's all the miscommunication is what stops them declaring their love for each other and all of that. But you sort of know that by the end that will all resolve itself, and they'll be in love with each other. But that's and I like that, and as I get older, I yearn that more than something that might, say, mess with the genre and go, well, let's have it that they don't end up happily. I would be hugely disappointed if they didn't end up happily. And it might be the cleverer thing to do. It might be genre-busting to do it that way. But that's not what you want. And it's certainly not what you want on Christmas Day. So that's a bit more of the sort of, the Superman-y kind of stuff with the cabs and the busy streets. And yes, here they are. Oh, I asked for more medical sort of people. See, that's a very simple, great. And the scar's good, isn't it? Oh yes, I've forgotten this quite big bit on a dripping spaceship. It's nice and dripping, isn't it? That's the sort of thing that you could never quite get in the way that old Doctor Who was made. That it's amazing. I remember watching Planet of Evil and being so thrilled when was it Baldwin runs on his way back to the ship and he splashes through a sort of stream because it's shot at Ealing, so you get a bit of water and you go, oh God, how often do we get people running through bits of water in Doctor Who? Well, we don't, because it's largely done in studio, and so that's one of the things we don't get. Even though that was in studio, but it was film, it's more controllable, so you get and there's far more, but just because time has moved on. But I still watch it through the lens of somebody for whom more than 2 days location filming seems a bit extravagant, So I love it when I just see a bit of dripping water in Doctor Who, I go, well, because we wouldn't have got that in the Ark in Space, even though they would probably have loved to have had it, and this is, it's brilliant, perfect, pitch perfect, unrequited love, which we all love because we've all had it, and it's painful, but I love that line of his in Blink where he said, "What sad is happy for deep people." The pain of unrequited love is sort of beautiful. It's not when you're in it, or is it? Because it does make you feel. Do you know what I mean? You're more alive than you've ever been when you're in love and in pain, and especially if you're both at the same time. And it's the same as sort of, funerals are happy but sad, because there is something cathartic about the extreme pain of saying goodbye, but the ceremony that we do it with, and the sort of bonding occasion of all being together and all sharing in that sorrow. It is desperately sad, and yet it's quite a nourishing sadness that is perversely quite enjoyable, which is why we do it, because it's making something at least decent or digestible out of something that's really difficult. And there is something fascinating in that area of where happiness and sadness kind of collide, but they're the moments we remember in our lives. They're what reminds us we're alive. Love is very sad, and interestingly, I would have probably said I was somebody that didn't particularly want love in my Doctor Who, because you get love in every other single programme. You get relationships breaking up and starting again in soaps and in a lot of dramas. That's all they're about, a breakdown of a marriage or whatever. But if it's window dressing or the drive or the emotional anchor for a fun sci-fi story, then it's great and it brings an extra dimension. So there's all sorts of things that I would think weren't up my street that then, when they're done well, are exactly up my street, and I love having them in Doctor Who. So I suppose it's the argument to say that there's nothing you can't do in Doctor Who, so long as you're doing what Doctor Who does best, which is zestful, family-friendly, imaginative funny sci-fi adventures. And if you've got a screwball love comedy at the heart of it, or a superhero origin story at the heart of it, that's fine. What's this? This is Harmony Shoal, Colony South, Harmony Shoal. Oh, this is very clever. Yes. So very, very, yeah. So it's all very cleverly plotted, so that the leaders of the world will all go to Harmony Shoal, and then they will be able to fulfill their plan. So again, it's like the best Moffat, the sci-fi part of the story is again really expertly sort of jigsawed together. But yes, what do we think? I do need to look at the early Capaldis, because they did do this thing, didn't they, of making him hard and tricky. But I remember a friend of mine, Jamie Matheson, is an ex stand-up comic, so I know Jamie, and saying at those first read-throughs, everybody's really, really excited. And I remember when Capaldi was announced, I was at my friend's house and we bought a bottle of champagne and we watched the reveal on the telly, and we punched the sky. But then something happened, didn't it? Because it's I don't know. I think it's ripe for reappraisal. Something happened that this era didn't seem to have the command over the people that I know as much as the Matt Smith era did. Although a lot of my old-fashioned Doctor Who friends, perhaps the ones who are maybe 5, 6, or 7 years older than me, aren't had all sort of drifted away from New Doctor Who, which I've never been tempted to do. I'm the nanny. That's great. I love that. Hero shot of a guy holding a baby monitor. And only Doctor Who. Surely only Doctor Who can do that. That's a confluence of so many things that are Doctor Who. Love it. I've never drifted away from Doctor Who. I've always watched it. I've even watched it when I've hated it, and I never hated the Capaldi era. But I think we'd expected it to be all conquering, and it never quite did that. And watching it now, it's certainly not the fault of Capaldi, who I think is so good. He's such a good actor, and he's so doctorish. And this production's fantastic. And yes, well done for doing a Christmas special that it feels special because it's Doctor Who meets Marvel Comics, or the superhero genre. So it feels like that's. But you could equally do this in the middle of a season. But it seems somehow to work for Christmas without having all the trappings of Christmas. And I think that's, to its credit as well. Well done, everybody. And I've got to choose my 5 favourite things about this episode for my meeting with the guys tomorrow. So, I'm definitely going to choose Mr. Huffles. I'm definitely going to choose the oil bleeding from the scar. That element of the bad guys. I like that. Can you just write a poem? The bit where the Doctor turns his back to confront the aliens so that they can't kill any of them. I think that's very, very Doctorish. I also like the bit where Peter Capaldi draws the line. So I might have to choose between those two. I've got to choose. I've got to choose that it's a superhero crossover, because I think that really works. I'd combine that with the fact that it's American as well. The whole Americana / comic strip / superhero thing that is the very, the raison d'etre of the story, I think is all really well judged and all perfectly done, and it's nice and refreshing and different for Doctor, and yet so right. And of course it's very sweet that, and of course perfectly placed that he gets the moment. That's what we want. Yes, I'd forgotten that. I only watched it the other day. That is it a bird? Is it a plane? I mean, it's perhaps smaller scale than had this been a movie, but that's because this isn't a movie. But actually, that's nothing wrong with that. No, that's fine. In fact, that's more than fine. The amount of effort and skill that's gone into that special effects shot, and they're going, yeah, that's fine actually. How dare I? It's great, and the music. So Murray Gold is so good as well. I've been listening to. He's very good, Justin Chatwin. I'm sure he's in all sorts of American programs now, but he's great. I'm glad he came over here to do the Doctor Who. He's a very good piece of casting. Mrs. Lombard. Oh, a giant bomb. He pitches his performance really, really well. He's bang on. And the baddie is still standing. He's actually left-handed. That's a very good gag as well. Joke. Go on, kiss. Oh. Oh, I think that's really sweet. The superhero costume is the glasses. I mean, it's a bit cheesy, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with cheesy. I absolutely love it. Cheesy things often bring tears to my eyes more than big real motions. And I think that putting on the glasses when you think she's talking about his lycra gear or whatever it is superhero costumes are made of these days, and the Doctor's left holding the baby, which is very funny, but not before confronting the bad guy. Oh, very good. So actually, yeah, and that's it's and it's, you think there's going to be a big sort of coda, and actually you go, no, you guys are trivial. We've seen off the menace now. We don't need an extra 5 minutes of jeopardy. Off you pop, bad guys. And it leaves them sort of impotent, which is nice. You go, well, hang on, is that it? And then no, there's a twist in the tale, and this is glorious. This is a really horrific, again, wonderfully Doctor Who-y image. Look at that. That's great. It's a bit reminiscent of the of the rubber skin suit hanging in the Leisure Hive. But there we go. He's a bad guy. So the bad guy lives on. So that's a nice little twist in the tale. But I do quite like that sort of dismissal of the impotent alien at the end, sort of going, yeah, you're just small and wound up. Off you pop. So this is very sweet. That's hit all the right notes. So, of course, because he's been away, he was being away for 24 years for being sad. Oh dear. What was her? Oh, Mr. Huffles. Oh, they do this stuff, and I have friends who object to all of this, and I do understand that. Actually, the thing is, the Doctor gets rid of companions, and there's an inherent sadness to that, and we don't need to dwell on it. But look at the. I mean, he hasn't been dwelling on it for the whole story, and we just get this little coda here, where you see the pain of the Time Lord, and yet it's what I was talking about before. Everything ends and everything begins, and those two things are that curious sort of Venn diagram crossing over of happiness and sadness. And, you know, it's etched in Capaldi's face. That's the advantage of an older Doctor, is that, you know, as I get older, I realise that one of the reasons getting old is hard is because you've got more things that you're sad or embarrassed about that you can't forget. There are more of them to plague you as you try to get to sleep at night. It was River Song, not Clara. Yes, it's River Song. And he's great at this. He's very silly. And again, don't overcomplicate it. That says it all. He's a madman in a box. He's very brave and he's very silly and he's going to be sad. And again, the fact that you're allowed the sort of different textures of delivery there by the fact that Matt Lucas is very funny, but he's also this strange alien guy. That means that he doesn't follow the same linguistic rules or the same deliveries that we do. Look at that. He's so good. It is like the Magician's Apprentice, isn't it? He sort of conducts the TARDIS, I think, Peter Capaldi's Doctor. And, you know, and he's also quite alarming. I love Bill Potts. And this was as exciting as watching the episode. I love her. This is what you've got to look forward to in a few months' time. At the end of an episode of Doctor Who. That they're the new cliffhangers in a way. Is that here's what's coming up next. I really enjoyed that season. There's a lot that's really, really good in it. And I love Bill Potts. The sunglasses, of course. Oh, that's a great punch. Punch a racist. I like that. Yes. I think we need slower credits and single captions for a few more people, but that's just me. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. And I, as I say, until this week when I couldn't watch it raw because I don't think I'd have had anything to say. I just kept going, "What's happening here?" As you noticed at the end there, I slipped up. I went, "Oh, he's sad about Clara." No, he's sad about River Song. But so I've actually, it's interesting for me as a viewer because, I mean, even as I've been going back to stories I know really well for this process, you know, so I've just recently done The Dominators, which, you know, I've seen a number of times, you know, probably, you know, in the teens of times, The Dominators. That's not it's not been a particular favourite of mine. I do have the joy of actually going back to some of the more recent episodes, and 5 years counts as more recent, and sort of learning all there is to learn about them. And I love that because because it means there's the archaeology, because we will, as time goes on, I'm sure some stuff's out there already. Well, of course, we've got the complete history and stuff, but find out things about the making of. And then as time goes, you know, there might be things where people go, and actually that episode was really difficult, or that was a compromise because we did this, or the reason that happens in this. And there's already some stuff like that about, but that's been available, a lot of it in sort of, you know, press packs and electronic media and all of, you know, the promotion of the show. You know, the stories that were told then will change in 10 years' time and will then change again in 10 years after that as as time and perspective, and very Stephen Moffat-y, what actually happens changes in our minds because our memories are fragmentary and perceptions change. And it's funny, I've been looking into Edge of Destruction, and Carol Ann Ford said in an interview with Doctor Who magazine years and years ago, I hated that one, it was awful, we didn't know what we were doing. Well, last time I spoke to her, she went, oh, that was my favourite one. So there we go. So that's why Stephen Moffat's timey-wimey stuff is, can be very convincing, in the sense that actually who can say what history is, because it changes depending on who's telling it, or when we tell it ourselves, or who we're telling it to, or whatever, so there's a lot in that. But anyway, my favourite things about that are Mr. Huffles, the turning of the backs, the leaky face, the whole superhero Americana love story, the ghost, all of that I think is a really nice synthesis. And I think, do I say? I mean, I'm tempted to just say Peter Capaldi because he's so good. I'm tempted to just say Matt Lucas. So actually, because it's their only story, I've read the wiki page as Doctor and Companion, 2 male leads in Doctor Who. I'm not being a member of Fathers for Justice. Yeah, time has dressed as a superhero. But I think the Doctor and Nardole, Peter Capaldi and Matt Lucas, that double act, which was freshly minted, really, there, and then gets augmented by Bill next year. But it's a lovely dynamic, and they're both brilliant actors. And they both have a lovely energy about them. So those are my 5 things. What did I say? Mr. Huffles, the leaky oil face. It's just a brilliant, economical, monstrous special effect. The bit where the Doctor gets everyone to turn their back on the bad guy to use mad logic to stop them being killed. And with an honourable mention to the bit where he faces off against the baddies, he says, I'm drawing a line, I'm giving you a chance. I love that. It's a different scene, but it's in the same room. So honourable mention, but I don't think I'm choosing it. The whole superhero / Americana / comic strip / love story thing, but it's just sort of like everything, but I don't know. I think they're all related, and they all sort of do feed into each other. So, yeah. And the Doctor and Nardole as a double act, as a team, and the performances of those two. I really enjoyed that, and as I say, I'd sort of seen it as a disposable Christmas special that I'd quite enjoyed, but not bothered to go back and look at it. It's not that I hadn't bothered. I think by the time I was into watching Doctor Who again, the new series had come, the Bill season, and I did rewatch episodes of that. Yeah, I was sort of never of a mind to do it. So it actually makes me feel rather excited that I've got so much to sort of consume again that I'm not as familiar with, because I had got very familiar with Doctor Who 1963 to 1989. But actually, as I'm getting older, I'm forgetting bits of that now. There are stories I used to be able to quote verbatim that I can probably only now recognise some music cues and entire pages of dialogue from. But I really enjoyed revisiting that. I thought it was a really lovely, fun, silly, sad, charming, Christmassy without being Christmassy Doctor Who episode. And I look forward to what my guests, who in podcast terms I'm about to cut to in in terms of where I am now, I will be speaking to in less than 24 hours. So let's go over to them, and then I will come back at the end. Well, look, thank you very much for letting me join you from across the pond. I think this is a wonderful testimony to what Doctor Who can do, and we've all got together having watched The Return of Dr. Mysterio, and we've both sets of us. You have chosen 5 things that were your favourite things about it, and I've chosen my 5, and we're going to see if they match. I suspect they won't, but it's worth me having a try. So who's going to take me through your first thing?
So one of my favorite things was the doctor eating sushi, because it's just we hadn't seen the doctor, but then the first thing you see is the doctor sitting there eating sushi while they are spying on somebody. It makes no sense, but it just adds this fun, twisty to the story, and it gets it off to a very great start.
I think that too, because it adds a very good funny starting of the episode, and it adds a good funny thing, and the starters of the people watching, they see it's funny and they might want to join the
I think it's very funny because it's a serious moment. There's spying because there's brains, and it's a very serious moment. And then you see the doctor eating sushi just randomly, and it makes it very funny. It adds humor to the episode.
That's a great choice. I think sushi is the last thing you'd want to be eating when you stumbled upon a room full of brains in a jar, isn't it? But I can't think of any other TV hero who would fight an alien menace whilst eating sushi at the same time and using chopsticks. I think that's the genius as well. He's not using his fingers. Brilliant. That's an excellent choice. It is not, sadly, on my list, so I can already feel my confidence ebbing away, but that's okay. I don't know why I'm shouting. I know you're in America, but I'm using a very good microphone. But I feel that you're far away. Okay, what's the next choice?
I really like when Grant swallowed the pill. I mean, not pill, medicine, because he thought it was a pill. Because the doctor handed him some water and this thing that kind of was in the shape of a pill. I thought it was funny because that kind of started off the entire story and added a huge difference with such a small thing.
I thought the same thing because I thought it was kind of funny because I had the same thing happen to me when I was a kid. So and that made me just want to watch the whole episode on repeat because it makes sense. It was really fun.
The same thing happened to you as a kid. A time traveler made you swallow something that turned you into a Who superhero. That's amazing.
It happened to me also because when my mom gave me a bottle of water, and so then before I drank the water, I saw a Lego piece and ate the Lego piece and then drank the water.
Well, it shows how easily it can happen.
Okay, that's the 3 friends for that one.
Well, that's lovely, and I'll share a little Doctor Who fact for you with that then, because that opening bit where he swallows the pill, I agree, it's an absolutely fantastic joke because all of the ingredients are there set up. You see the glass, you see the crystal, you see that he's got a little cough, so it makes absolute sense that he does what he does, but it's the punchline to a sequence, and so it's a great gag, but it's also very handy for the plot. But that also means that because all that happens before the opening titles, that is, at that point, the longest pre-titles sequence in the whole history of Doctor Who up to that point. So, because it's nearly 10 minutes long, it's nearly a sixth of the episode. So there's a little factoid. Okay, number 3.
So I didn't have any time to watch the episode because I had baseball practice and soccer practice. But I chose Grant saying I'm the nanny like a superhero because
my eye just went straight to it when Mr. Peck asked me which one I wanted. And I thought it was really, really funny that she was saying that, and I actually had a dream about that the other night, and it was really, really funny.
Did you dream of a superhero called the nanny?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I agreed with Gus because it's super funny. Like he's saying, "I'm the nanny."
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? Because he does it just like a superhero, but he's the nanny. It's really funny.
I liked when he said I'm the nanny because it was like him being brave, and when the who's the person lady?
Lucy?
Yeah, and Lucy didn't know Grant was the superhero, and Grant ran out saying I'm the nanny and like superhero.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Because a nanny is the last thing you expect to be a kind of superhero, but of course the story says, well, we've all got a superhero within us. I love that, but it is also it's really funny. Well, thank you for that, everybody. What's the next one?
One of my favorite things is like the ghost in just his costume. I think his costume is really cool because it has like this big G on it, and then his mask I think is also really like unique because I've never really seen one like it before.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it, because I will have a follow-up question to that about the whole superhero thing and about the whole America thing. But we'll let you do your things first, and I will have an associate question to that. But yes, that's a good choice, a good call.
I like Grant's costume because I like the colors of it, and I like how they kind of use the traditional superhero look and kind of added stuff that was about him to it.
Yeah, because there's not been a Doctor Who with a superhero in it before, so it's a nice sort of one-off in that regard. Yeah, good call.
I also really liked the costume, and because it sort of reminded me of all of the other like cartoony heroes, and it sort of reminded me of like Superman for some weird reason, and it just reminded me of all of when I really used to like superheroes, and I also just love how like the G and how it represents Ghost and Grant.
Oh, of course, yeah, Ghost and Grant, and it's very Superman, isn't he? Because he's got the glasses. That's the disguise. Yeah, brilliant. That's a good choice. Okay. So we have the last one, the last choice.
I think that we all liked Mr. Huffle. And I thought it was really, really funny that Lucy actually used him as a method of like interrogation, because like a like dog toy or whatever he is, you wouldn't expect that.
No. Oh, I'm very pleased, because Mr. Huffle was one of my choices too.
And I'll chime in as well. I'm partial to Mr. Huffle as well, and I think we all love the little catchphrase. We might have to say that at the end, but this is Mr. Huffle. Mr. Huffle feels pain, and I just want to hold the little toy out and squeak at anybody who tries to tell me a lie. Not many people do, but I like it as both comedy and as well as to make the Doctor a little more accountable, because there have been some things that he's been denying for some time, especially that he's been denying that he's been hurting over River Song being gone.
Oh, that's an excellent thought. Because I approached it from a slightly more sort of practically scripting point of view, where there's always a bit in Doctor Who where they have to explain the nature of the threat and of the plot. And if you're not careful, the whole action stops and everyone just has to sort of sit down and have it explained to them. And what I loved about Mr. Huffles was that it was a way of explaining the plot, but keeping it fresh and funny and getting all that exposition out in an enjoyable way.
Except we'll never know when he gets his revenge.
That's very true. Well, it's interesting because the Wikipedia page about it, there's a big argument, I think, between the people who've been updating it about what constitutes a companion of Doctor Who. And I think as Mr. Huffle ends up on the TARDIS console at the end, there's a call to say if he's still there, he's a silent companion of Doctor Who. I suppose my follow up to your observations about the superhero side of things, and the fact, because it's quite exciting for me, because I was brought up in the countryside in the middle of the UK. The nearest house was 1/4 mile away. The idea of a city was amazing. The idea of America, the idea that I'd talk to you good people or anybody from America, which seems such a far off and exciting land. And especially as America was not really in Doctor Who. There's a story in the 60s called The Gunfighters, but Doctor Who doesn't really make it to America until more recent years. So I always get a bit of a thrill when I see America in Doctor Who. And superheroes were always the stuff of big movies. So I get a thrill seeing a superhero in Doctor Who. But I'm very conscious that this is the America and a superhero as made in Wales in the United Kingdom. So I wondered what you, as genuine Americans, made of our UK portrayal of things that are very much part of your culture. Did we get away with it?
I really liked it because it was different. It was very different, and because most of the superhero actors, they were American, and I thought it was really cool how it was a lot different. It was more I thought it was actually a little bit exciting to see a UK person doing a superhero, and I also loved the accent. It made it sound so brave, and I just really liked it.
Oh, I'm pleased.
I thought it was flat out awesome.
Hey! Oh, this is music to my ears.
But it was just amazing because here in America, all the superheroes that we see in the comics, like Captain America, Spider-Man, they all are American. But then you go on to Doctor Who, which is amazing, and you see a superhero as someone from the UK. And it's just so cool to see the different variants, like the American superheroes, then you see the UK superheroes. You kind of get a new flavor.
Well, so I was thinking as Michaela and the other people said, every superhero we most know, Superman and stuff like that, American. But then in Doctor Who, it's someone who's from the UK, and I thought maybe it could be a new trend.
Oh, I like it. I like it. I mean, you've always been very nice to sort of English actors and English, English programs. So I'm glad that Doctor Who has found a home over with you guys. I really am. Well, typically Moffat style, we're being very, very timey-wimey. We're back to when I recorded the actual commentary of the episode, which was almost 24 hours before I did the bit you've just heard, which is me talking to my special guests, who I'm sure you'll agree was a fantastic opportunity for me. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. I hope you enjoyed watching the return of Dr. Mysterio, who isn't the superhero. It's actually Doctor Who. Or, as we know, Dr. Mysterio. So thanks very much for listening. I hope you're having a happy time in a happy place. My name is Toby. Thanks for being there, and I'll speak to you next time. Ta-ta. Oh, well... look, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for reaching out across the ocean and giving me your time, but also hope for the future. I love Doctor Who, and I love the fact that it is of interest to such young, intelligent, and creative people. And I would very much like to repay the favour and somehow do something for you and your after-school club. But I'll sort that out with your teacher. But for today, I know you've squeezed all the time you possibly can into doing this for me, and you've all put preparation into it as well. And I'm really, really impressed, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much.
What do you say, guys?
Thank you!
Thank you ever so much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Haydock. My special guests this time around were the Who Kids of Lamplighter School, who are on Twitter at WhoKidsLL. Do give them a follow. They're the future. Thanks to them and to Mr. Peck for organising the whole thing. I really enjoyed that. I hope you did too. Thanks to Mr. Peck and to the kids and indeed for their parents for allowing that to happen. I'd also like to thank the patrons who make these podcasts possible. They include Stephen White, Sydney Wilson, Andrew Willis, Michael Williams, Rich Wiggins, Adam Westwood, Gary Wales, Apollo C. Vermouth, Reynard Toombs, Sabrina Tirabassi, Nick Temple, Neil Tate, Stephen Smith, aka Dalek Fan, Keith Say, Matt Sawyer, Jim Sankster, Mark Sandham, John Rivers, Dylan Reese, Scott Pride, Kevin Parker, Jonathan Potter, Keith Pirrie, and Duncan Harvey. The music is by Dave Gates, the artwork, Dylan Patterson. Well, yes, once again, thanks to Mr. Peck, who sort of reached out via Twitter and made that happen. It's lovely, isn't it, that there's such hope for the future. And good on Mr. Peck for organising an after-school club all about Doctor Who. Oh, I envy the next generation. Now, listen, if you would like to be like the names listed of those patrons who get advanced material, they get exclusives, they also every Tuesday get a picture of my dog Bernard, then you can go to patreon.com/Toby Haydock, where from as little as £3 a month, you also get a 10% discount if you sign up for a year. You can get all of those goodies. Now look, I know that's a bit of a commitment, and as we go up, everything from petrol to pineapple is going up. I don't drive, so I'm okay, but I'm fueled by pineapple. Yeah, look, I know times are tough. But there is the alternative that isn't a commitment, which is Ko-fi, kofi.com/Toby Haydock, KO-FI, where if there's a podcast you particularly enjoy, or if you are feeling particularly flush, or if someone gives you a pineapple and you've got loads of spare cash, then bug me a couple of shekels at Ko-fi. But there's no obligation. And look, I am just very glad there is an audience out there. If you're an audience in the States, please tell your friends, because I'd like to up my listenership in America and Canada and Australia, because whilst I have lots in the UK, I like to think that what I have to say may be of interest to those of you who've been kind enough to be nice to me when I visited foreign climes, New Zealand as well, and I think there's a couple of listeners elsewhere. If you're a listener from another part of the world, send me a message and I will give you a shout out. I'm not meaning to only count the big ones, but I've just noticed that yes, my Venn diagram, no, my pie chart has a hefty slice of the UK and everywhere else are tender morsels. So anyway, yes, spread the word. And also, what you can do that costs absolutely nothing is to go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and give these 5 stars. The 5 stars really help get us up the ladder, and a few lines of review as well. They help passing trade to get an idea of what these were all about and maybe lure them into the spider's web of geekery in which you find yourself enmeshed. But I promise not to eat you, but I'll just give you a slice of pineapple. So yeah, if you could do that, tell your friends, I'd be most grateful. I'm on Twitter at Toby Haydock, and these podcasts have their own special feed at Haydock Podcasts. Haydock is spelt Hadoke. My comedy club is also on Twitter, XS Malarkey, an X, an S, and then Malarkey, Malarkey. That's in the UK every Tuesday at 8 p.m, but we have an online version that we did when the plague kept us all indoors. We continued performing as we have done every Tuesday for the past 25 years. So on twitch.tv/XS Malarkey, there's an archive of our online shows that we did during COVID, and also have continued to do once a month on the first Sunday of every month. So that's where you can find us at 8 p.m. UK time. XS Malarkey on Twitch. Oh, so there we go. Well, that's interesting because I recorded that commentary and the interview with the kids before we knew who the new Doctor Who was. Times are a-changing as I record all of this. Now, if you're a patron, this is sort of current affairs. If you're not, this is like a time capsule. But such is the way that these things are done. This is not a current affairs podcast. So when I'm recording, it isn't really the issue. But yes, things are all getting very exciting. We've now got Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. We've got David Tennant and Catherine Tate back for the 60th. Pictures are leaking everywhere. Oh, what a time to be a Doctor Who fan. I feel like I'm 33 again. But it just goes to show all the different levels of excitement that there are, because I actually thought that, there's something about hearing those kids who are, obviously understandably nervous, but it doesn't come across actually, does it? They were, engaged and excited by this wonderful programme of ours. So let's hope it continues to engage and excite for many. Although I saw somebody else say something along these lines, but it was actually in my one-man show, My Stepson Stole My Sonic Screwdriver, which is a joke that I wrote. I'm not saying the thought is unique to me, but I'm not jumping on the back of whoever said it this week, but somebody did tweet something along these lines. But yeah, back in 2010, I turned that thought into a sort of little routine in My Stepson Stole My Sonic Screwdriver, saying, as I get older and, suffer from ailments, it's not the worry of Doctor Who getting cancelled. It's actually the worry of me dying and wonderful Doctor Who being made after I am gone. It's amazing how one's problems change depending on one's perspective. So yeah, carry on, Doctor. But if I start to feel a bit peaky, you can cease transmission, which is what I'm going to do now.